And we are on Music Heals episode 3 with Phil Didlake.
Episode 3, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll be here with Arthur. Oh, yeah. Everybody, do what you're doing. Your smiles will bring a sunshiny day.
Hey.
Celebration. Oh, we're together. Oh, we're joining virtually. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Sounds good. It sounds good. Looks good. It's on Twitch. You see it. I'm good here, and the Wi-Fi is good here. Benefit of being in South City right now.
Nice.
Yeah, it's good.
Cool. Well, should I keep playing or?
Yeah, if you'd like, if you want to continue, we can talk as well. I think it's just impromptu at the moment.
Sure. Nice. It looks like we've got 5 viewers.
Wow, 5 already? What's up, everybody?
Yeah. I got to drum everybody. I'm going to keep drumming. I'm
Yeah,
excited.
keep it going. Let's go. Oh, we got 7. What's up? Hey, everybody.
What's up? What's up? What's up? I want to say what's up to Miss Madrigal, my future mother-in-law, I think, who is logging in, possibly my future brother-in-law, some family. Just want to say thank you for being here today. Oh, yeah. Ah. Oh, everybody, do what you're doing. Oh, your smiles will bring a sunshiny day. Celebration, we're together. We're gonna talk about music healing today. Oh, yeah.
Hey. Yes. How does that work for you when you're teaching in an online environment? Is I guess you would say lag is a big, I guess, thing to look for, and to see, like, if people are lagging, then timing's off, right? But how do you address that, I suppose?
Yes, when everything shut down in March of 2020, I came up with this idea, and I was inspired by another influencer, Christine Stevens, who was looking at how we could possibly drum together virtual on Zoom. And instead of focusing on what we can't, like you're saying, the delay, there's no way to actually synchronize with the latency
Right.
that we're finding on Zoom, at least. Although it's getting better and better, it's pretty amazing. But
Right.
drumming in particular has been challenging because basically Zoom is optimized for voice, and it actually tries to eliminate background noise. And so you have to like go into all of your settings to even get, you know, the opportunity to hear, because if you're just like my students, if they're playing, they don't have their settings right, I can't even hear them, let alone being able to play with them. But
Mm-hmm.
one of the powerful things about these platforms is the visual component. So even though everybody's mic is turned off, I can drum along and I can get everybody moving, like we could all move like you.
Okay.
And it's pretty amazing. I worked with a summer camp last year, and probably the most screens that I saw, it was children from all over the United States through Adventures in Writing Camp.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh,
they're
okay. Yeah.
you might be familiar.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of, they're already on, their curriculum's online. So it was a transition, but this was like, this was, the last summer, and there was 275 kids on the screen back when you can only see 25 at a time. And it was amazing just scrolling through, and seeing all
Yeah.
these children moving and dancing, and you'd spotlight one, and it was just pretty amazing to see, what was possible. And so there's a lot that you can't do. I'm looking forward to the time when our internet will get better, where we can synchronize more. But I've just been taking on that attitude. What is possible and what can we
Okay.
do? And we've just been exploring that, and we can do call and response, and there's all these other many things I could get into. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think call and response is good. I asked that because, as a DJ, we were trying to see if we could do like 4 turntable setups where
Mhm.
it's like I'll DJ, I'm LinkedIn, and then you're LinkedIn, and then you go, or we can mix into each other's mixes. But it was so hard trying to do that because it was never synced properly. Even through FaceTime or whatever method we tried to use, it was just difficult because there's just that lag in between. So I'm sure, like you said, that once the internet gets better, it'll be better for everybody, and it's nice to see I guess, the commonalities between each of these, like teaching a class or wanting to DJ.
Yes. I'll even tell you that it's actually stretched me to learn how to collaborate more with other musicians too. And there's this interesting platform that I've been working with called Pedal, which is kind of like Zoom, but it allows you to basically transfer audio files in and out of a DAW system or a digital audio workstation. And
Mhm.
it can basically, I can drop it to you and it'll pop up on your
Oh,
screen, and then you
nice.
can pull it into your DAW system and then play over it. So I
That's
think
cool.
that we're just on the tip of the iceberg of what is possible with these kind of collaborative new platforms. So, yeah, we might
Awesome.
have to try something if you want to learn how to use that. Yeah,
Hey,
pedal it.
you never know. Yeah, pedal might work, whatever helps. Denise is here. If you remember Denise, she said anytime you were there, it was a party for all all people of all ages.
Nice.
I think that, you mentioned like having 275 kids across the nation on Zoom, and just that energy alone, and scrolling through 25 at a time. I imagined it as you were talking. I imagine it being somewhat similar to when we did party on the lawn at the Bankhead. It's just that energy. I can't describe it. I can't describe the energy that you bring specifically because you're facilitating this kind of energy happening. But I know that you're going to like kind of just be like, well, I'm just there to help.
Sure.
Really, it's the energy of everybody. But I think
Yeah.
that that's also the energy of the drum. Like you're tapping into the drum, which is tapping into everybody, and everybody just taps into the drum. I know we're going to get into it because it's one of the questions, but there's something about the drum that really everybody gravitates towards. And we'll talk about it later. I think we are at a good space now. It's 4:52, so I'm going to start and we'll just get into it. How about that?
Sounds good.
Let's see here. I'll turn off get to the top here. Technology. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Music Heals. It's episode 3 with Phil Didlake. If you were here for episode 2, it was pretty much just me eating salsa and chips because of the technology gods. So I prayed a little bit more to the technology gods, and hopefully we get everything going all right tonight. I'm really excited. I'm really honored to have my brother here, Phil Didlake. I'm going to do a little intro about myself. My name is Arthur Barinke. Some know me as Emmerich. I'm a DJ, designer, artist, ballet dancer, and performing artist. Music is very much in my DNA. I work at a performing arts theater where I've produced, managed, and emceed cultural festivals and summer concerts. Like I said, I am the music. A little bit about my history with music. Music saved my life, and I know that that's happened for a lot of people, and I can totally relate. If you say that sentence, I'm with you. Like, I understand that, to my core. As a latchkey kid in '89, I was gifted my first boombox at 9 years old, and my world expanded, and hip hop music came into my life. I connected with people, with friends through reciting tribe lyrics. And a few years later, at the age of 12, I started DJing. Gingy, rest in peace, of Igman Productions, taught me and let me get on the turntables. At 14, I went to the Berryessa flea market and got my first pair of Gemini turntables. Belt drive, baby.
Nice.
But I was in heaven, at 14. That's everything. Literally, it was everything. I DJ'd into the night for hours and, didn't even realize it was the morning until it was and the sun was coming out. DJing connected me to myself, to listening, to timing, to others, to the rhythm of life. And then in my 20s, I lost myself. I lost it all. I lost DJing. I was just lost. I was heavy into drugs and big into suicide. And my mental health, my will, my love of life was gone. And I was drowning in my own deep ocean of suffering. There were so many times where I was breaking down and apart, and a song would save me. It's actually Pachelbel's Canon in D. And if I was in my studio, I would be playing that. I would have played that in the beginning. That song saved me over and over and over. Music was my life preserver. I really shouldn't be here, but through the Creator's grace and through music, I'm still alive. And at the age of 33, I began to get my love and my life back. Slowly, I learned sound production with Expressions Entertainment, and I began to DJ again at gigs. Scary. It's like the scariest thing. Being gone for, a dozen years, right? Not confident at all. A big contrast to my teen years where I was so full of confidence. And after being homeless in my 30s, I found a landing spot and more importantly, a place to wake up and DJ like I did as a teen. Just wake up and go to it. It's amazing. Here I am with the added bonus of COVID times and the pandemic and having the time to remember my abilities and time to play and just rock it. Even rock it on Twitch. Like, dude, Twitch is fun. I miss y'all. Peace to everybody on Twitch. I'm so thankful for this healing journey of music. This is a remembrance of who I am. I am the music. And I just want to take a moment of silence, a moment of gratitude, really, to be here, having made it through the pandemic and on the other side. I mean, we're not completely, and we're forever changed, but I do want to take a moment for us that are here and for those who have passed.
Would you like a chime?
Sure. You're going to chime? What?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, do it. Yeah. And that chime was amazing. We have
It's a
all the
mindfulness
instruments
chime.
right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to introduce my guest. Phil Didlake is the founder of Rhythmic Innovation, an organization that provides music instruction and music therapy through drumming programs. Phil is a man of the community, having started drumming circles in Livermore and connected people through the drum over a decade ago. He's traveled the world doing the same thing. And I don't even remember how I met Phil. I really don't. I can't even access it in my head right now. But it's because it's been so long and we've worked on so many projects together, all these projects to uplift and connect the community. But I do know that every time I see Phil, man, it's a blessing, dude. It's always a blessing to see you, bro. Honestly, I am so honored. And it always brings a big smile to my heart. I have to like stand up. So yeah, it's really amazing. And to know that you do that for other people, I'm so glad you're here today. You do that for the elderly, you do it for the youth, you do it for everybody that is around you. And I'm really, like I said, really honored that you're here. You should have put a fake applause like those 90s sitcoms, but I'll just do this.
Nice.
Yeah, man, how you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
And
no
you know, I can't even remember too the first time we met, but we've just been at this grassroots level working in our communities and where our paths just keep bringing us back to each other. And I do share that similar joy when I see you.
I know,
And
man. It's there. It's felt.
yeah. So
Bro,
thanks
it's
for
like
having me.
the other day I was interviewing. Oh, I got a new job, everyone, by the way. Surprise. I'll let you guys know more about that. But anyway,
You're on
so
your
I was interviewing, and it was with another nonprofit, and I was saying, and we were talking about how nonprofit work and the style of work and the way we bring community together is the
Mm,
future. And I think it's more accentuated by the pandemic and what nonprofits have done during the pandemic. It's really being shown, and more people are gravitating towards that. So it's like you talk about, we have been at this grassroots level for so long. Um, that that's just our everyday. That's our everyday, man. That's the community, and you understand it, and I know it, and it's just going to grow from here, I think, because people have turned towards it, for comfort, for relief, and now they know that that's what it's about, that which is really inspiring, and hopeful.
sure.
Yeah.
I
So
know
let
we'll
me
talk
get
a lot
into
about. Oh,
what's
sorry,
up.
I'll say just a word. Is like it's so wild. I know we'll talk about the past, but in some ways, I just feel like we're just at the beginning, and there's,
Mhm.
it's pretty amazing. Some of the things you shared, and I feel the same. But go ahead.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, we're definitely gonna get into all of that, but I love that the optimism, Um, but let's dive into the past. So, just a few questions about growing up. How'd you get into music? Did you come from a musical family? Were there cousins, aunts, uncles, grandfathers, fathers, mothers?
Yes. Well, it's interesting because music actually brought my parents together at Mississippi State. My dad was an engineer, and my mom, she was actually she's in the beauty pageant, smoking hot, and played the piano. And
Oh
she
wow.
was, and she was also, in the band. And my dad, I guess they were. My dad was the squad lead, and he kept pulling my mom over to help her, and because he liked her. And anyways, they started dating. He moved out here to Sandia Labs as an engineer, and really was top of his class. He's a very humble man. He never really shared a lot with that growing, with us growing up. But yeah, I grew up with my mom. She was teaching piano in our home, and every afternoon there'd be piano students coming in. And I have some of my first memories are, just dancing. She would be playing in the evenings, and I would just be dancing around with my brothers and sisters. And music was a really big part of, the way I grew up. We were homeschooled, actually,
Mm.
and I was homeschooled up until about fourth grade. And I always was tapping on everything. I just wanted, I had this energy, and my mom wanted me to be, a piano player. And I didn't want to play piano. I actually still remember in junior high, my parents asked, you can pick any band in that you want to play in the school band. What instrument you want to play? And I was like, I want to play drums. There's no question. They
Mhm.
said, you need to pick a real instrument. So yeah, honestly, I picked saxophone because it was shiny and had all these buttons, and
Right.
I thought it looked cool. So I grew up in middle school. I was actually, my dad did a 2-year transfer to Maryland, so I was homeschooled up until fourth grade. I went to Almond Avenue Elementary School, and then my dad did a 2-year transfer to Maryland. And yeah, I was playing saxophone, but I think it was when I came back to East Avenue, and I was sitting. That's how I got to know my good friend John Williams, who is also a saxophone player. And yeah, I was always hanging out with the drummers in the back. And
Mm.
finally, I think one of the drummers was sick for one of our performances. I got the opportunity to play, and my parents were in the audience, and they came up to Mr. Burke, my band director, and said, "Why is Phil playing the drums?" He said, "You know what? If he wants to play the drums, you should let him play the drums."
Mm. Thank you,
And
Mr. Burke.
oh yeah. And man, I was just talk about rebellious kid. I remember coming. Yeah, so many stories I could talk about in band, but I really give it up to him for, supporting me and wanting to play drums and giving me that opportunity. And I look back and I wonder, drumming was more or less a rebellion for me because of that. I was
Mhm.
told not to. And I joke and I say, I wonder if my parents told me, yeah, you can play the drums, if I'd even have been interested in it. So
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm thankful that they did. I think that I wanted to say that it's probably something you came to, like, you told yourself, I'm born to play the drums. Like you knew it. That's why you started tapping at such a young age.
yeah.
And I think that everything, like all rivers lead to the ocean of drum, you know, regardless. And
Yeah.
I do wonder, that's probably in an alternate reality, like, oh yeah, they told you you could play the drums. I wonder if you would have chose that still, or if
Yeah.
it would have been piano. But I couldn't imagine anything else, like with where you're at now, I couldn't imagine
Yes.
anything else, definitely, definitely. Um, what was Livermore like growing up? Almond Avenue, that's off of East Avenue, right?
Yes. And I don't think it's a school anymore. It might be a daycare.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I all I, my brother, he was basically he was really an academic and did well in school, and I just learned a little bit differently. And so I was more really interested in making friends, and I begged my mom, because I was homeschooled until I was in fourth grade, so that I could go to school so I could make friends. And yeah, I still remember, yeah, going to school and how big of a shift that was. But I had to learn how to make friends really quick because I was always changing schools. My dad did this transfer.
Right.
But when I came back, I think Livermore is one of these places that has everything. And as a young man, I wanted to get out and experience the world and get out of this small town. And the more that I got out, the more I realized, wow, there's so much here.
Mm-hmm.
And when I grew up, I was really privileged to be here. And I didn't really, it was kind of like drumming. It was like I wasn't given permission, and I got so caught up in this rebellion that I slipped in to a lot of uh, you know, being bored, not doing the things that I felt like I was called to be doing. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I'm inspired by your story and opening up too, because there was a time where after my boarding school experience, I was labeled like a troubled kid. I wasn't doing well in high school. I
Mm-hmm.
got sent to an all boys military Baptist school, and when I came out of that, it was I was taught at this school that I had to be a certain way for God to love me. And it was this very tight mold that I didn't fit in. And in
Right.
fact, they even taught me there that drums were of the devil, and that if you tap your foot, that's the devil's music. And so it was so hard for me to kind of process through all of that I really
Mm-hmm.
slipped into in my 20s kind of being lost and kind of
Right.
falling off. By music was, though, always a thread, though, and a big part of my life, and helped me through. But I mean, I got into the rave scene in Oakland for a while, and it was, this was back where, man, vinyls, and it was transitioning into, the CDJs, and there was a lot of, and I got my hands on some turntables and spent hours, but the drug scene was heavy here.
Mm-hmm.
And, I got caught into a scene where I wasn't giving back to my community, in a good way. And, when I really hit a low point is when, something made me, remember one of the most influential moments that I had in music. You asked that earlier. And that was, when I was actually in middle school. I was playing drums for a church group here,
Mm-hmm.
and they would go to Santa Cruz to for a worship retreat. And I remember I was on the beach of Santa Cruz with a djembe, and at that time I didn't even know what this instrument was called, and I heard all of this drumming happening in the distance, and I basically ditched this church group to follow the sound of drumming. And it was the most beautiful thing to walk up on my first drum circle that I witnessed. I didn't even know what it was or what you called it. It was just a group of people, all different ages, all different kinds of drums, and they just welcomed me in. It was like I had found my musical family with mere strangers, and without even saying a word, they opened up the circle, and for the first time they let me play, however I wanted. They gave me permission to play however I
Mhm.
wanted rather than telling me how to. So yeah,
Wow.
that's when I remembered that, and I actually got on Craigslist and I said, I'm going to buy a djembe, and I'm going to hunt out every drum circle that I could find, and that was a really this reconnection that happened for me. Yeah, that started me on this journey. So yeah,
Wow. Well, first off, I just want to say I'm proud of you. Like, dude, you have a lot of courage, man, and you've been doing that for so long. I mean, the rebellious person in you is also your strength, right? Like it can get you into some things, but
yeah,
also it's your strength. And like it takes so much courage to just follow the drum, and that's an amazing symbolic, almost kind of like reconnection to home. You could create a movie off of that type of thing, right? Like,
mhm,
I ditched this church group to just follow the beat of the drum, which is like, some people will say, the first drum is your heartbeat or your mom's heartbeat, right? So it's almost like you were following your own heartbeat and you're trying to get there, especially in a place where you were so lost. Right. I don't know the depths that you've gone to, but I know how far, being lost can go. And so it's really like super symbolic. And I can just see it like so vividly in my head as I imagine, right? Like this, you're going deep into a cave or something, bro.
yeah,
And really just hearing that sound and knowing that, not knowing actually what you're going to end up at, but for some reason you're following it and you ended up in this place that was welcoming, that was inclusive, that wanted you to reconnect. That's amazing. If that is not an act of God, I don't know.
yeah,
Like, I honestly don't know. And the fact that, so circling back to today and what you're going to do in the future, it's like that's what you continue to do and recreate. That's, like I said, I'm proud of you, man. And it does
thanks.
take a lot of courage. I'm glad that you were the rebel, though. Going
Yes.
back to all that, is that your joyous memory of music? The most joyous, you think?
I do think so, because it was really that first time, and it was just one moment. It was just one time. Sometimes we think we have to keep going and doing something or discipline ourselves, but I think that rebellion was really just a curiosity to explore, and it was well intended, because when people gave me that permission that day and I looked around and I drummed, I lived with that for years and years and didn't even revisit it till later. And really, that's my mission, is to go to different communities and remind people that they're capable, that they're able, even if that's one time that they come. And I have so many stories, but that's probably, yeah, one of the most impactful memories that I carry with me. So
Wow,
yeah,
thank you for that story, man. Whoa. I just want to take a minute to sit with that because that really does hit me too. And as I think about it too, I think I've seen your name. You mentioned the rave scene back then, and Livermore, as far away as Livermore is, it's kind of perfect because it was far away, and people would actually come from all over to rave in Livermore in our country, like on the
yeah,
countryside. I remember that, and I think I might have seen a flyer with your name on it.
it's possible.
I don't know because I think there
Yes.
was it's not like there was a certain promoter crew out in Livermore per se, but there was a big group of you guys that kind of just threw stuff. Because I remember throwing a party and then having a rave down the street that we were competing with.
Yep.
Because you guys were over on Second Street or something, or I don't know if you were part of that, but I can kind of think that maybe you were, because I do remember seeing your name, I think, for some reason on some colored flyer. Anyway, but yeah,
Nice. Well, if you
so I
find
know
it,
we,
it'd be great to
huh?
see. Let me know if you find it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so many things are gone from that era. Um,
Yeah.
Oh,
Plur,
we have
man.
our
Love
memories.
you.
I don't even know if our memories are true because I mean, like you mentioned, man, there's a lot of drugs going on too. It was a big
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
Um, let's
You
get
remember
into the drums.
Plur, peace, love, unity, and respect, man.
Oh, there you go, Blur. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Right? Still,
Yep.
it's still a thing. You know.
Yes.
Um,
Yep.
it's just evolved into or morphed into something different.
Yes.
right? You mentioned playing your well. When did you play your first drum? You mentioned that a little bit.
Well, I think my first drum was just honestly, I found these two sticks. I forget what it is. It's like a juggling. You have these two sticks and you bounce this other one between. You flip it. And I had these two sticks growing up, and I would
Oh,
just
cool.
listen to music and play on my pillow or my mattress. I was always tapping. Everybody, it drove my parents and teachers bonkers because I was just drumming along. I just put on music and I just tapped, and you might. I mean, it's funny. Drummers can kind of spot out, these other drummers because we don't like to sit still and we're always tapping on stuff. You can sometimes look in the audience because our hands are always tapping. And I think it's so cool because I think my first drum is my body and whatever is close by that makes some cool sounds because I wasn't allowed to have a drum. But
Mm,
yeah, I think my good friend Ryan Weber, he saw me in the youth group tapping along, and he says, "You know what? It'd be good for you to play on the worship team." And he was one of the first that really saw and believed, the potential that I had by what he was seeing, and put me on a drum, in the church, which is no, it's so many wonderful musicians come out of the church because it's such a positive environment to
mm,
to be playing. You're playing every week. There's a rehearsal, and eventually I was able to play drum set for both the youth ministry and for the main service. And that's when I, all completely self-taught, from what I just watching and learning. So that was kind of my earliest days, one of my first experiences.
wow. If you could describe the drum to you personally, that connection to the drum, what is that description?
Hmm. Well, I believe that a drum is is an entity. It's a relationship that I get to share. I fell in love with. So I will do a shout out. I actually proposed to Jenny Madrigal, who we started our business together, and yeah, and I share that because I feel like you, the love that I have for the drum is very similar. Like I've fallen in love with this instrument, and through this relationship, just like I have with Jenny, it like humbles me to learn about the history and the background and the story that the drum brings with it, and the more that I spend time with it, the more that our relationship just gets to blossom. And whether it's a good day or a bad day, to be able to come together and to have a moment together, it always reminds me who I am and what I'm doing and what my purpose is. And the drum is all of those. Drum and rhythm is life. It is life. It's what keeps us alive. And it is the lens which I view the entire world through the drum. And yeah, it is something that I'm just grateful to have, and all the cultures and stories that have brought it to this place where I get to hold it in my hand. It's amazing. We're miracles. We made it to this space and time, and yeah, that's what the drum is a little bit for me.
Man, yeah, those statements are so true. You know, that truth is the truth. I think it's a universal truth. And you tap into it so well. It really is. When you speak, I know it's your truth. And so it's amazing to just hear that. That's awesome. Congratulations, by the way. She said yes, right?
She said yes, and
Okay,
we're
okay.
getting married
Just
next
wanted to
summer in
follow up
early
because you
next
didn't
year.
say she said yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool, cool. When are you guys slated to get married? Do you have that
We're
time yet?
next June. We're
Okay.
doing do it a year out so that we can bring our families together. And her family's actually out right now visiting from Indiana,
Oh,
and so it's yeah, something that we've started our business, we've built our lives together, and we get to talk about our future. And it's just been you know through this last year, through the challenges, it really brought us closer together. And yeah, just we both felt it was time to make, this commitment and to bring our families together. And
Oh,
so,
yeah.
yeah.
That's good. Yeah, it's amazing to hear too because, I've seen you guys both over the years growing in your relationship, and through ups and downs as a relationship is, and through it all, you guys stuck it out. And I'm really glad that you guys are fulfilling each other in that way, and it shows. It shows in your like external world because of the productions you put on now and everything that you have and how you've shifted together through this pandemic. I think has really shown the strength of your relationship. And to circle it back to the drum, it's it's the strength of the relationship between two human beings, but it's also the strength of the relationship with the drum. The drum is the thing that holds you guys together, you know? Obviously, yes, your love holds you guys together, but I can firmly say that that love is a drum, you know? So it's cool to see. It's cool to have seen that throughout the years as well.
Thanks.
Word.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think? So I asked this earlier, but why do you think people are attracted to the drum? What is it that's so attractive to people?
Hmm. I think it's accessible, very accessible, and it's a quick learning curve. So it's amazing whether you're working with a toddler, you have a drum, you set it out, you tap it, and they'll reply back. Whether it's a senior in memory care, you put the drum out and play it, and usually you get the hand and it'll come play right back. I think that it's grounding. It's aerobic, it's physical. We need to orient and feel our space right here in this time, and to be able to mark that and to play it and get that instant feedback I is I think in my words, one reason why people love it. I think that also rhythm, you hear it naturally in the way that we walk and the way that we talk. And there's so many rhythms, around us in our everyday life, that when we hear a rhythm, I think there's this relation that we have to it, and this amazing ability that I think our culture doesn't teach us, and that is that we can synchronize with that quite easily. And scientists are even perplexed. Not just animal or people, but also animals are able to synchronize. And to build upon that, there's a synergy that happens that I think is very powerful when two people are able to synchronize. Because when you're looking at it, neurology was talking about looking at how it releases these endorphins. We hear a pulse, we're feeling it, and then we can synchronize with it. And then we look to the person, even if you've been in a crowd in the audience, when you get the person on stage clapping, and you're all clapping, and you start looking around, and all of a sudden you're connected with everybody in that space. And we experience this, and we just have to remind ourselves this joyous experience, I think, is so fascinating. Because one researcher I've been interested in, he even calls it pro-social commitment. They're pinpointing in our brain where people are synchronizing, and they're finding that we're more committed in the future for during adverse situations. So in other words, it seems like when we have these moments when we share together in rhythm, that it creates this bond that is positive and built on that
Mm,
positive relationship.
mm.
And the effects of that are beyond what we are going to experience in that moment.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
that's
yeah.
wild. That's awesome. It's the other day I was playing the Turtle Nation drum. Shout out to Livermore American Indian Center, and someone had mentioned. Shout out to Alan because he's the one that mentioned. He's like, you know what? They say that when you get into a circle, everybody's heartbeats start to beat at the same rhythm, at the same pace.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
And
wild. I
and
was like, whoa.
and moving too. If we synchronize movement as well, that also seems to synchronize our heart rate as well. It's
Yeah,
fascinating.
dude,
Yeah.
that's. I like that you have. This is off topic, right? But like, I like that you have this scientific look at things as well. Like, you have a part of your dad in you, as a scientist, right? It's like
Yeah.
you can't get rid of that. But I
That's
know
so
it's
cool.
interesting because you're such an artist, right? Like the rebel part of you, the artist, the person that wants to connect, that is just like full of art and freedom. And then you also have like the scientist part of you.
Yes. That's so cool that, you made that connection and correlated it with my dad. And maybe that is where I get it from. He's an engineer.
Hmm.
However, I know, that a lot of my background is in music therapy. And so a part of our training is really diving into research and clinical research. And I have through diving into it, I've really learned to love the pursuit to try to understand a little bit more. Now we're able to look at the brain and what's happening. 20 years ago, we thought we were going to find a music center in our brain. And the truth is that we didn't find the music center in the brain because our brain processes music in all different regions. And so it's been a powerful conduit for neurologic rehabilitation as well, particularly rhythm and melody. So yeah,
Does
it's
it help? Well, so this is also a tangent, but does it help? Because the brain continually rejuvenates itself, right? It's building new neurons. Maybe
yeah,
sometimes it doesn't. Maybe sometimes it slows down. Maybe you've done too many drugs and like whatever, right?
yeah,
But also, does music help build I don't even know what they're called, but build your
yeah.
brain?
Yeah, maybe one term you could use is neuroplasticity. Our brain
Mhm.
is always evolving and changing, and so that I'll mention there's an incredible music therapy colleague, Brian Harris, and he has an organization called Med Rhythms, and they're using a very particular branch of music therapy called NMT, or neurologic music therapy. And it's really groundbreaking because they're working with patients that have neurologic damage, like a traumatic brain injury, a TBI, or the story of Congresswoman Gabby Gifford, who is shot in the head, and she lost all of her ability to speak. She was able to live through it, but through particular protocols that are specific to NMT, they're able to use rhythm and melody because you have a damaged area in your brain. And through these particular protocols, it's able to reroute your neural networks in your brain around the damaged area and
Wow.
increasing recovery time. So these NMT music therapists are working with speech therapists and occupational
Mhm.
therapists side by side. And the rhythm and music is actually speeding up the recovery time where
Yes.
music isn't present. And it's just it is really, and it's non-invasive, it's non-threatening, and
Right.
everybody is benefiting from the music, not just the patient, but also the nurses and all the clinicians. And so this is really groundbreaking. And actually, this last year I've been watching, and he's been getting huge donations to help further this research because it's very much just at the cusp right now, but very exciting.
Yeah, dude, you are so full of hope. I think that everything that we've been talking about is just very future based and very hopeful and promising. Man, even just hearing that is amazing. And speaking of healing, I was going to ask you about a difficult time and
Mhm.
seeing where you healed in regards to, or how music helped you heal. But really, I think that, you mentioned that earlier. And if we could go back to it, it would be great. But, you're talking about how you were sent off to school, and in a rigid school where it was actually like, let's just say, diminishing your light, or trying to drown out your music per se, right? How did you come out of that, and how have you healed from that? In regards to music, did music help you, and has it made you stronger in that kind of way?
Yes, when I got sent to the school, it was a fundamental all boys school that we weren't allowed to play drums, but we were, I was in the choir. I was actually, and this is even going back before, I don't know if you're familiar with Cantabella Children's Choir.
Yeah, one of the Bankhead Theater's resident companies, and they've been in Livermore for 50 plus, maybe
Yes.
at
Yes.
least 30 plus years. So,
Incredible,
mm,
organization. And I was one of the first Cantabella Choir children that met in B Chow's living room,
mm,
because we were the first group. And so I grew up singing. So when I was in this boarding school, I tried out for the men's choir and got in. And so we would travel from church to church in Missouri, and we would sing and give testimonies at different churches. And then we were also, the only instrument we were allowed to play was the harmonica. And so I basically have, I learned all these. We could only play gospel hymns on the harmonica. And can I maybe play a little hymn for you? I've got my harmonica here,
geez.
and I'm hoping that this will transport you into the feeling of this hymn, and also, this song, "It Is Well With My Soul." And being able to practice my harmonica, and even though I wanted to be in any other place but this boarding school, I would, every day I'd say I would rather to be any other place on this planet than right here. But having this little harmonica was able to transport me to a better place. Coming through?
Yep. Yeah, man.
So not a
So
lot
not
of rhythm, but a
right.
lot of emotion and feeling. And
Mm-hmm.
so this is the needle through the thread, right? I wasn't able to play drums, but out of necessity, I grabbed any tool, whether it was the saxophone or the harmonica, that
Mm-hmm.
would help move and give me that place that I could escape. And when I open my eyes, everybody's clapping, and I see that it's reciprocated, it's
Yeah.
heard and felt. So yeah, um, the harmonica helped, but then when I came out of boarding school, it was, I always just gravitated towards the drums. I also share with you too, kind of fast forwarding to this last year, I'll share another kind of traumatic experience that I had. And, a lot of us were doing a lot more yard work around the house. And we were actually doing some concrete work in front of Ron's house here. And we had, we're pouring concrete, and I was running and grabbing a bag. And I pulled my wrist, and you might be able to see the scar right here. I actually pulled,
Mm-hmm.
uh, basically overextended, and pulled a ligament, and a bone fracture came off. And so, yeah, it took them a while to find out what had happened. But basically, a ligament, that when they went in to remove the bone fragment, wasn't there to rebuild it. And they wanted to do, reconstruction. But I said, no, I don't want to do that. I want to see what I can do naturally. But I share that because I remember coming home, and my whole world is drumming. And I was,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I was thinking, oh, I might not be able to drum. This is my whole life. And, I had to. I remember going on a walk out in Sycamore Grove right after the surgery, and I just went out and reasoned with God. How could this happen to me? My whole world is drumming. Now I can't. And I said, you know what? But I have my left hand, and I have both my feet, and I know other drummers that have been able to make it with just one hand. And you know what? I realized I'm not going to let any of these things stop me. I'm not going to let these boarding school, experiences stop me, or any person that told me that you can't play the drum or drum is of the devil. And I'm not going to let this, stop me from playing. And, I'm still now using my own drumming for my own physical recovery. I was teaching this last year all on Zoom with my one hand. I had my mouse with one hand. I'm playing for my students with my drum set with one hand. And my technique in my left hand has gotten so much better. I'm brushing my teeth using the mouse. And so I feel like through all of this, I've become such a stronger player, a stronger drummer, and I'm just more grateful for being able to still play. And I feel like I'm better than when I was before the injury. So yeah.
Yeah, that's God's grace, man. I feel like, one of the kids that I interviewed must have said it, but they say, through the adversity, that's what will bring you strength, or what will make you stronger. It's quite amazing, and it's very true, especially to live it. You know, having gone through what you've gone through in the past year, and then to be at a place where you are now, where you feel you're better for it. Because going through it, it's like you're questioning, you're reasoning with God and all of these things. But, you know, in hindsight, God brought you to a different place, and a better place, right? And so it's like, whoa, this is amazing. you know, I,
Really is.
I'm sure that, the feeling of it, of being in the moment right now, is is spectacular. I'm sure, being able to play with both hands, with that much more, is probably quite amazing for you.
Yes.
Um, Going back to healing and then mental health, moving forward, um, what are some ways that you've taken care of yourself? You mentioned this past year, and I'm sure it was devastating. I can't. I think I saw some posts about it, man, when that first happened, and it seemed pretty gloomy. Right. So how did you take care of yourself from that point?
Well, I, I think being in my 30s, I'm realizing I'm not immortal, and
Mhm.
and these are just reminders. I try when I stub my toe or slam my finger in a door, that I say, you know what, I'm glad I'm alive, or I fall on my skateboard. There's a reason that I'm feeling like this, and it can be okay, even though it's very uncomfortable.
Mm.
And yeah, and I don't even know the power of those words, in the full, in its full, you know, the, embodying that to its fullest extent. But I have connected a lot more to body work and doing yoga,
Mm.
to connecting to the earth. I talked about going out to Sycamore. I've been pretty much every day, if I'm off my screen, I try to dive outside, and I've been, biking more and going on hikes more, but also just reconnecting more with family. And that has, all of those components. If I have a morning, it's like a rhythm ritual. I wake up, and if I can, I remember just, I did a fast on news for a while, when things were really crazy. I would say no news before noon, because I wanted to wake up. I wanted to, stretch, do yoga. I'd get on my bike, which is very rhythmic, and then come back and do just any type of drumming or rudiments. And it was like, it regulated me to take on,
Mm. Mhm.
boom, the news, and taking all that intense information and all the people and interactions that were coming up during the day. And I'd like to say that I've always been able to keep that rhythm going, but some days I trip, and I remind myself to get back into that rhythm.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think it's again, I think of everything as through the lens of the drum, and I think trying to figure out these self-care practices, I've got to think. I think of them like rhythm and stacking them on top of each other. Like once
Mhm.
you've learned one rhythm, then your brain is able now to take on another one,
Ooh.
or stack on
Uh-huh.
top of it. So yeah, so now
Ooh.
I'm like running and listening to my audio books at the same time, right? So like I'm
Right.
able to start stacking these wellness practices.
Wow. Yeah, that actually sounds really cool, as if to create this song, you know, as you continue to stack. I was, as you were talking, I was thinking about the pause and how effective a pause is during a song, you know, um, and how effective a pause is kind of in life. It's really interesting to pause things and then to still have the rhythm going, I guess, during the pause, right? As the facilitator, as the leader, and even in because I've taken part of your workshops and I've been part of, your circles and everything and your teachings. It's like, how important is the pause? Because you use that effectively, when you teach or when we have community drum circles or even when we have, these team building workshops.
Mhm. I think it's one of the most powerful moments. And I was captivated by this. And well, I'll share a couple things. Well, one, research, they were looking at physiological, your body and the heart rate, and they were finding that when they introduced a moment of pause, that your heart seemed to slow down even below your baseline. And there's still a lot of, I think, uh, I think there's a lot of still yet to be known of how powerful this pause is, and how influential it is. But when I really this world opened up to me was while I was going to school at Berkeley. One of my drumming professors, Steve Wilkes, he was one of the original members of the Blue Man Group.
Hmm.
He had this drumming event in the music therapy room. It's really iconic because my experience is I've just gone to drum circles. So I walked into this workshop and they were actually native drums all in a circle. And
Hmm.
so I saw in the corner, oh, there's an extra drum. I ran over there, grabbed the drum, and sat down. And the professor knew me, and he said, I don't do this with anyone. This is a performance group that's practiced, but I'll let you play and just synchronize. And it was a group called Drum Massage, which we're still a part of. I'm still a part of, even through we've been Zooming this last year together, stayed connected. However, it was about maybe 15 on average, about 15 students. And we would host these events. They were 45 minutes, and we would have a frame drum, and we would play around 68 beats per minute. And we wouldn't play any faster or any slower. And even I, with all my drumming experience, I was a little bit skeptical. So, everybody would lay down on yoga mats and relax while we would play these drums. We'd fill this room, talk about the heartbeat.
Hmm.
And I was skeptical of like the power of it, because we don't have a lot of research around the efficacy of this, but there's pointers. People are starting to point, hey, there's a lot of power in this. And it's kind of the first experience I've had. I'm always energy. Let's play faster, louder, quick. But this kind of was the opposite. It's using the same tool, but to help bring us down to a place of pause and relaxation. And after playing for 45 minutes, we would stop, and the stories we would let people talk about the impact. They said that moment of pause was the most influential moment, the place where they felt the most relaxed. They would be in the midst of finals. They couldn't sleep, but it was that moment when the drums stopped that was the most impactful. So I think, yeah, I'm not surprised. You're aware, and I think that there is a lot of potential for yet to be discovered, and how powerful this moment of pause is.
Yeah. Especially all of us having gone through a pause. I mean, quite honestly, I think we were talking about it before we even got on, where we're all, or maybe I had a conversation earlier in the day where it was like, yeah, we're all moving in this direction. 2019, it was big things happening, for everyone, and it was go, go, go. And then all of a sudden, we all had to pause in 2020. We literally paused. And,
Yeah.
coming back to it now, it's like this reset, with even like we have these tools, like we can use both of our hands drumming now, right? Like
Yeah.
everything that we gained so much from pausing, we gained so much, uh, had we used this time properly. um and to each their own, I'm not saying anything's proper, right? But with this time that we were allotted in 2020, we were given everything we needed to move forward in 2021 and beyond, right? We can use both hands, essentially, talking symbolically and metaphorically, um, to move forward with. It's amazing. This pause has been amazing, and the pause is amazing. It's the coolest thing. I
Yes.
can't even tell you. I know I mentioned I have a new job coming up. Like, dude, I can't even tell you guys yet. But yeah.
Yeah.
So all these things that are happening now is just wow, right? It's just really, really, really wow. Um, can you talk about music therapy a little bit more? Just
Sure.
anything.
Sure. It's, I'm just so honored to be a part of this field. It's, music therapy is, was basically, started, well, in the 50s, when World War II vets were coming back to the United States. And then we called it shell shock. We didn't know what PTSD was. But the
Mm,
nurses found that when they were playing music that the soldiers knew and enjoyed, that it was unlike any medication that was given. It brought them to the present moment, and they saw this potential. And so, that's kind of the roots of, how music therapy began here in the United States. It's, I think there's a lot of times, I was just actually talking to someone this weekend about it. It's really confused, it's commonly mistook for sound healing, uh, which is, there is an overlap, and that overlap is actually growing even this last year, which is exciting. However, I would say music therapy is, we're trained to work in hospitals and on the clinical team to understand research and to work, with other occupational therapists or clinicians to, and some of the populations that we work with are, special needs, seniors and memory care, skilled nursing, to anybody really. And that's even I'm so happy to have gone to Berkeley. I remember some of my professors saying, if music therapy really works, then we can break out of all of these populations, because it really heals. It has the power to heal each and every person. And yeah, it's interesting how I learned about music therapy, because it's similar to how it started here in the United States. Because I was doing a drum circle. I started, in 2009. I remember I was working at Los Vaqueros Grill off Vasco. I
yeah.
don't know if you remember Gino's gas station.
Yeah. Shout
And
out
my
to Victoria.
yeah,
Wait,
way back.
wait, really quick. Does that trip you out that we have some of those tables in the Bothwell?
It is. It is wild. I cleaned those tables in the Bothwell so many times.
It's
And
like
I
following
recognized them
you throughout your
immediately when
life.
I was moving them.
Yeah, I was there when we took those tables and chairs from Los Vaqueros before they had to leave, and brought them to the
Yeah.
Bothwell. So it's interesting. Like you saying that it's weird to me right now. It's such a trip to think about all that and how it kind of just comes full circle.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I know, it's okay. It's incredible that, yeah, how it connected all of these stories are. And yeah, so I was doing a Wednesday night drum circle every week, and I think
Mm,
the
mm,
first time I realized that there was some therapeutic value to what I was doing was when my friend Sean, who had just gotten out, of serving in the army, was during, coming back from the Iraq War, and going through a lot of PTSD, and that he was trying to adapt into civilian life. And he just pulled me aside after one of our drum circles at Los Vaqueros. He said, it's been so hard for me, to readapt into this life. And he says, but your drum circle is the one thing I look forward to every week. It's the place that
Mhm.
I feel connected. And it was at that moment, Sean taught me that there's something more to this than just drumming and how good we are, what we can play, that there was
Mhm.
something more that was happening. And so that was my first introduction in a way. And then when I went to a drum circle training in Oakland, one of my good teachers, Arthur Hull, that was teaching, about half of those that attended were music therapists. And it was the first time I got to sit down with the music therapist and realize that there's this amazing field that a lot of people really don't know about. There are people that are literally giving their lives over to this work, carrying drums and guitars into hospitals, into schools, into senior centers, and really helping. I think you could relate to this. We all have this almost a therapeutic relationship to music, to the music that we grew up with. And as the research that we're finding, the music, even in the from 18 to 25, in that ballpark, is the most influential. And even when in later life, when dementia is deteriorating memory, the music, the memory from these songs, they're still intact completely.
Mhm.
And there's we ha- on a neurological level, but I also think more on a metaphysical level, like I was sharing with the drum, we each have this unique relationship with music. And a music therapist is really trained to meet you where you're at, to listen to and understand your music, and to build a relationship around your preferred music. It's a beautiful field, to get to really dive into people's lives through music. And through that, it really is such a rewarding field, to constantly being surprised and challenged, to learn new music, to understand new music, to be taught from our own clients different types of music. And what comes up, we're really trained to kind of, when certain emotions come up, how do we
Mhm.
work with those, how do we,
Mhm.
how, and where, you know where we can step in and help, but then also where we can help guide. If something comes up that is outside of our domain, we have the resources and connections to connect them to the right place. We can point them into the right direction if it's beyond, because sometimes things come up. We're looking at our students and we're like, oh, I think there's an eye going on here. Here's an optometrist. We're not trained in this area, right? But because of the music, we're working on all regions of the brain. Things come up and we can refer them and point them in the right direction. So it's
Wow.
yeah, it's a beautiful field to be a part of. So
Yeah, it's very giving. This is my first thought is that you give so much of yourself. It takes so much to listen, to listen to others and to because it's not just like you're listening to words, you know. There's so much more that goes on with listening, and to be able to listen in that way and know what the needs are, and then to also bring that person to a place where um, they're better off, than they were through the music and through your listening and through the therapy is really a spectacular thing. Like
yeah,
I can't describe it, and you're trying to describe it, but really it's like we can talk forever about it because there's so much to it. And
yeah.
so that's man, music therapy,
Yeah,
hands
you
down.
said it really
Yeah,
well. In short, we're using music to help improve non-musical goals is one way, to help move through these therapeutic, we measure and we document, the improvements. And
yeah,
to get this, when we see that, and the parents and everyone that's involved, around it, that's the most rewarding, you know thing about the job that I have, is to hear those success stories.
Well, let's translate that over to community. I'm gonna move to the next topic here. I was gonna play a video, but I think I'm just gonna play videos in succession after we talk about community. How about that?
That sounds
Um,
good.
well, so let's keep in mind just the healing of music and what you've mentioned, with music therapy. And then let's look at through that lens and talk about the community. Like, what does community mean to you? I know you alluded to it earlier a little bit in your personal history, you know, but what does it mean to you, and what does it look and feel like and sound like to you? I guess if you could envision your perfect utopia, what is that?
I think the word community has changed for me over time. When I was that rebellious teen, we were talking about, community work was something when you get in trouble, you have to do community service, right?
Right,
So it was like one of those things that you had to do when you got in trouble.
right.
and I and it's unfortunate that we're using it. It was used almost as like a punishment, right? And I was so disconnected from what community really meant. I, I find that the drum circle is the perfect representation of what community is, and it helps me understand my place in community and when to step in and when to step out.
Mhm,
Where I think that community is showing up for support, is being able to see what really needs to be done, and stepping into that, or realizing that that's for somebody else, and stepping out of away from that. I I find that I use this analogy is that the place of agreement is the place of power. And so when we can come to a place of an agreement in our communities, then there's power in that. And when we can support, I think, in a drum circle, it's the pulse, it's that grounding rhythm. And that is our place of agreement. And that's the community's place of agreement. What is that? Is that is that to build a thriving, diverse, art community here in Livermore? These are places that we can find these places of agreement, and we can show up. And if we can remind ourselves, and then through that pulse, right, then I can start to add on, my own unique, authentic self, who I am, to that place of agreement.
mm,
I'm going to play this drum. We've got this pulse, right? And it's like, okay, we found this place. Okay, so now I'm going to bring my little flares. But if I get too excited or carried away, then I'm like, I turn that into being more about me and less
mhm,
about the community. And I got to remind myself to humble myself back down and remind myself, hey, this isn't just about me.
mhm,
This is I have to remind myself that I've got to come back down to where that place of agreement is. And I think that that's in a metaphoric way, a little bit of what I believe community is about. Livermore, I thought I was too big for Livermore and I had to get out. But really, Livermore, when I showed up and I remember the first time I bought the first percussion bag it was $99. It was like these trinket drums that I got. And I would come downtown and do these drum circles, and I wasn't getting paid. And people would come. Sometimes you'd get somebody drunk that would just break stuff, and so afterwards, you're looking at all your instruments and they're broken. And one of my friends said, what, why are you doing this? You're not getting paid. You put all this time and money into this, and
mhm,
your stuff is getting broken. And I said, I feel like that this is what this community needs. And
mm,
there's something that I felt deep inside, that this is my purpose, and that none of this kind of turbulence was going to get into the way. And, I really felt the community give back, because, at first I
mhm,
didn't understand it, but there was people like Mahawani who stumbled across the drum circle one day and became one of my a drum master and elder and teacher, took me under his wing and Ron Scudder, who was on his path, just he had gone through a loss of his loved one. And he was feeling lost and needed to reconnect to community, and then help me, and support me to help sponsor me to go through school. And so, I look back in that moment, and it's like, I think they say that old, that old saying, if you give, it's what you give is what you get.
Hmm.
And when you give, it was, I'm still to this day always in awe and inspired of how much this community will give back if you go and you give. It's really, yeah,
Yeah,
a wonderful community to be a part of. So, yeah.
definitely. I think I remember those early days, I remember because when you were on your path, I was also on my path of remembering as well. I think around the same time in the early 2010s, early teen years, right? And I remembered I was like, oh, I should reach out to this guy and see if he'd want to drum at like one of our breakdancing events, And I don't know if I did or whatever, whatnot. I maybe not have gotten around to it because I probably got a group to do. I think I got like a group to like play or some band. I don't know, but either way, it was like you were on my radar, right?
Yes.
Is what I'm trying to say. And so we kind of going back to it, we're creating pulses in different areas of Livermore. We have the same kind of like want that and this want to enhance our community, right? To add to the community, right? Through drumming, through dancing, for the youth and for everyone, And so, relating to what you're saying, we're creating these rhythms, right? And even more so, we're stacking, like, right? It's like you're creating a rhythm and then I'm creating a rhythm and we want to blend these together and we found each other. Like I said, I don't remember how, but
Yeah.
we found each other to create these rhythms, and so it's just grown from there. I think the foundation that you built is strong, right?
Right.
And you're still reaping the rewards, the benefits, which it's never about that, right?
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
I think that you can look back and say, wow, look how far it's brought me. And you can be so proud of yourself for that, so joyous in the moment that like you've gotten this far because of community and because you've given back in the way that you were supposed to through the drums, you know?
Yeah.
Community is such a hard thing to define, but I think you said it really well. And I think that it really like it really sparked my imagination to think that it's like how you're mentioning stacking these layers of rhythm. You know, that's pretty awesome. Um, what are some main ingredients do you think that are needed for a community to last? Let's say even in your drum community that you've started and how that's morphed. What are some things that are foundational, I suppose, to a community lasting?
Well, I I think that a c Plato said that you learn more about a person in 1 hour of play than a year of conversation. And I think that a community that plays together stays together.
Right.
And that play is, art, that play is music, that play is movement, that play is commerce. I learned that when I went to Istanbul. There's this like play when you're negotiating, right? You get to side, it's this, sometimes people are like, I don't know how, but it can be fun. You can learn about somebody a little bit more if you're negotiating this play. And if we can just keep it playful, we don't have to be offended. We can learn how to play and
Mm,
to facilitation is key. I think that facilitate is kind of knowing, yeah, when something is needed and knowing that when you're called, like, oh man, can I do this? Well, if there's nobody else doing it and you're the person, then yeah, step into that. but there's also a place of facilitation where you see like, oh, well, there's somebody else that, is learning, and there might be developing their leadership, and we can help support, uplift them by kind of stepping back a little bit and lifting them up. And I think that there's an element to that. I think these are some of the ingredients, but yeah, I have been, I mean, my mission too in this community is to really, through a drum circle, I talk a lot about, people are, sometimes they come and think that they're going to be entertained, like we're a performance group. And, this is, I believe we're really taking music and bringing it to the community level. It's not about putting certain people on stage, because then you have those on stage, you have those that are watching and judging, and is this entertaining? Was my ticket worth it? Is this worth my time? And we can remove all that and bring everybody down on the same level. And if you're not being entertained, then change something. Give yourself permission to change your environment, to take a break, or to try something new. That that it isn't always somebody else's responsibility; it's our responsibility. To create a better future, for ourselves and for our next generation. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Say that again, man. Yeah, give yourself permission. That's such a big thing. We can go into maybe the next show that we're on together again, we can talk about permission, because I know that's been a big theme in your life, and it would be probably something you're very aware of, especially since you give that to people, I'm going to get into some videos. I'll play some videos now, and then we'll watch and we'll go from there. I didn't want to play these videos first because I feel like it would have transported us back. I want to show your growth now. So I'm going to play an old video, old Phil, or young Phil back then. And then I'll show some video of Phil now, and then Phil in the future. And then we'll go on to talk about now and the future.
Great.
All right, here it goes. Share screen. Give me a second here.
I'll pray to the techno gods.
Thanks.
Welcome back to Slice of Life.
Can you hear okay?
The Livermore Drum Circle is a free-spirited group that uses world drums, music, and dancing as a form of self-expression to build friendships and strengthen the community. As the music grows in popularity, they hope to become a Livermore staple for years to come.
Hey, there he is.
My name is Phil Didlake. Livermore Drum Circle is a free, family-friendly community event that happens weekly every Wednesday right here at the Bankhead. It is where people of all ages and kinds of people come out, and we use rhythm to make music and dance and have fun and take risks and meet other people. A lot of people get involved by just walking down and hearing this drumming going on. They kind of peek their head over the corner like, what is that happening? And really, it happens by discovery. Sometimes there's 2 or 3. Sometimes there's as many as 15 or 20. But it just depends who comes out, because I always say everyone's welcome, but nobody's obligated to come. The purpose of the drum circle is to use rhythm and music to connect with other people. It's not really the technicalities of drumming as much as the communication of drumming. We're also going to be performing at the Farmers Market. That is August 4th, and that's at the Family Farmers Market. And we're going to be there from 5 to 8 p.m. And we're going to do 2 sets, and we're also going to set up all the chairs and invite everyone to come play with us as well. My hope is that this will be a Livermore tradition. It's really cool to look out and see all the different kinds of people that come out, because music speaks to everyone. Facebook is where everybody's at, so you can find us at Livermore Drum Circle. And it is the place where you can come and meet a bunch of people and watch all the videos of us and ask questions.
And if you would like to drop by for a weekly drum circle gathering, check them out in front of the Bankhead on Wednesday nights at 6 p.m. Or you can find other performance times on their Facebook page.
There it is. Let me go to, yeah, so it stopped. Anyway, yeah, so I mean, there's, younger Phil, and it shows where the drum circle was at that time, right? We were talking about it, and how it brought community together. And, it's still the same mission and vision for you. Looking at that, it's still the same thing of bringing people together. It's really quite inspiring to see that it hasn't changed. And so that means that that's a true mission. It doesn't change because of outside forces, or because it doesn't know itself. It what it is, and so that's what it's been, and you continue to stick to that. I think that bringing it back to the community, uh, that is how you build community, right? Like, I think sticking to that mission has helped. So let's show a video about now. And these next videos are from last year, so it shows the growth, because even the production quality is pretty good too.
Nice.
Which shows that the network grew. You've done your thing, and it's gotten bigger and better.
Yeah, it's like rhythm. If you're consistent with your rhythm, if you're consistent with what you put out, it's easier for people to gravitate towards that and understand. Yeah.
You're right, because the pulse is strong.
Yes.
My name is Rowena Morgan. I've been coming to Phil's Drum Circle for about 10 years now. I find that coming to Phil's Drum Circle gives me a completely different take on music. It's informal, it's fun, it's stretching, it's challenging. I think it's wonderful that he includes so many of his children, especially his students. And I think it's an incredible, rich aspect of the community that we can be so proud of.
Hi, I'm Chris Hurst. I've been drumming with Phil and his group now for about a year. When I'm drumming with the community here, it is a kind of indescribable experience. You really have to experience it. You are at once an individual, and while you're playing, you're also part of something bigger, part of the community. And if there's anything that defines a community center, a community activity, this is it. When you listen to music and you find yourself tapping your foot, well, this is why you tap your foot.
I'm Pat, and I've been drumming for just a few years now, and it's been such a joy to connect with people and to hear these rhythms and get these rhythms going, and you feel the rhythm in your body, and you start to notice rhythms everywhere around you. So I've really enjoyed it. Phil is great, and I really enjoy his energy, and I thank you, Phil, for bringing it to me.
Hi, I'm Jody Harcourt, and I love coming to this drum circle with Phil and Jenny, who are my friends. It makes me feel part of the Livermore community. It's just a very different activity than what I'm used to during the week, and it relaxes me and energizes me at the same time.
Hi, my name is Annette Musso. I just want to share a couple thoughts about what the Livermore Drum Circle means to me and my son. I am the mother of a 16-year-old young man with nonverbal autism, and the Livermore Drum Circle has meant so much in our lives. For me, as a lover of music and self-expression, going to the drum circle and participating in a free collaboration with other people who are accepting and loving and just there to enjoy themselves is an amazing gift. As the mother of an autistic child, we are often judged in society for acting out of the norm. If you can imagine how my son feels attending the Livermore Drum Circle and having his unique sounds, vocal sounds, and physical movements be appreciated by those in attendance as part of the music, instead of being judged as a correct or incorrect action or sound. It's so freeing. It means so much to us and our life. And I am grateful to Phil and Jenny for bringing this experience to us in Livermore. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace Hurst. That was taken right before the pandemic. It was, the daughter of Chris Hurst, who is interested in filming and photography. So she was using
Oh,
that as part of her, almost an application for college. So
oh,
talk
wow.
about community when we all can, help, right? And there's a
Right.
space for everyone. Yeah.
There's definitely a space for everyone. I remember you guys being there over at the Bothwell, and I had a studio there, and I remember hearing it one time when I was painting. I was like, "Well, I guess I have to stop painting," and I wanted to play the drum, but I ended up dancing because I'm just a dancer, and so it was interesting. But I was still accepted in that way, and I'm glad to bring that to the circle, in that way. It's always been powerful to come into the drum circle in any kind of way, really, whether it's dancing or whether it's playing or speaking or just being there, even. It's truly it's a magical experience, and it's something to be part of. um Last video, this is kind of cool. This was also last year.
This was
And
last year. Yes. This was one of the back to business features, and they were hoping that Livermore was going to reopen, and so we were featured with Mr. Marchand spoke, and so we're here. We're here. We are in masks and distanced and everything. So yeah.
right. And speaking of dancing, I'm gonna stop it there.
Sure.
But that's such a I remember watching that all unfold, that whole project. Um and it's just cool to see the final production of it, right? Where you have music, art, and dance finally collaborating in this so expressive kind of way, and for business, like for a greater good. It really shows potential in what the community could be, right? And at the same time shows the potential of what the community is. Really, like, we reached out to each other, reached out to our networks and was like, okay, this, that, and the other, put it together, and it came about, right?
Yes.
That's pretty amazing. So I'm really
Yeah.
glad to see that, and really glad to see that that video.
Yeah. One of the mantras that we had when we did that is this was right during during the pandemic, is that we wanted to show the community how it's going to look when we come back together and play as well.
Mhm.
And we knew that it was kind of magic, and there was that element there, but it was it was just kind of, it all kind of happened just really within like a week or two, and how it happened, it was pretty amazing. And having like there were so many elements that was like, oh, like Rachel just hit me up last minute, like she step in and she's like, I'm gonna dance, how do I dance however you want. And I remember afterwards we were all like, oh, like we were just, it was so powerful, we are like almost in tears, like we wanted to hug each other, but it was still that like awkward
Right.
you
Right,
know?
right. Remember? Because
Yeah,
so let's talk about it, because it was last June. This is pretty much a
yeah,
year ago today.
yeah,
And, we had gone through the George Floyd thing, really quick, we'll mention. And we had went through some powerful moments in downtown Livermore. And yeah, I was part of a lot of that. And I remember having a healing event, right? And I was like, dude, I hope that you can make it to a healing event where we have drums, because I know how important it is. And I remember playing music, but I remember drumming. You started drumming, and I just went around, because we also had art, and we had Erica. Shout out to Erica and her boyfriend. They went around and they wrote all the names of all the slain people, slain African Americans by police, right? In a circle in downtown Livermore. And to have that there was so important, but to have the drums there to heal was so much more, it was so important as well. It added another layer of, wow, we're really honoring these people in this way, and bringing it back down. It wasn't about anything else but that, we could add whatever we want to, but at the end of the day, we were healing that day. And that was the aim. And to bring it back to, this video that we just had with Rachel, with you guys, and the art, that shout out to Trent, who, started putting up murals last year too, right? To have all that art there, and like you said, to show the community that this is how community does it and how it will be in the future, man, that's like in your face and very inspiring. That's like, this is how it's going to be done. And it also circles back to that conversation I had with this new job and this new organization, right? Where it was like, yeah, I think people now realize the power of community. And not only that, they know the power of nonprofits in the community as well. And these grassroots organizations that are just doing it and giving and giving, you know. I think one thing that I really saw for Livermore was, dude, they are giving food like no other. Like, food has been so we've been so blessed to have food, you know, uh, during the pandemic. And that's through grassroots organizing and nonprofits, So it's really, really powerful. Um, let's take it quickly here, since it is 6:30, right? I could talk to you forever, man.
yeah.
We're going to run through the future. We're going to talk about now, and then we're going to go to the future. Um, and thank you so much for your time,
Of course.
for being here. What do you think of online communities? Just some thoughts about it. Has it been a challenge to go digital? And what is it like building online communities for you?
Well, yeah, online communities are global. It's in
Mm.
when I realized that this was the only way that we could connect, and I was going to figure a way to continue to do a drum circle on Zoom, as silly that as that sounds. I had so many that logged in that first time, and I remember planning it all day, and man, to see some of my teachers and the people I looked up and all these people from around the world that showed up. Some drum facilitators from Canada that I got to collaborate with, and to connect, with people from the other side of the continent. It was just this amazing moment. I remember when that screen turned off, it was just, there was so much energy that I was still working through. And through, it's kind of like learning the first rhythm. It's the hardest when you first start. But
Mm,
doing it every week kind of got me, onto this rhythm. And I do see the benefit of, being able to quickly mobilize and to almost meet people at a more intimate, personal place in their homes. And it's been it's been quite a journey. And yeah, I do, I honestly don't know exactly, when I decided to move back in person, a few months ago. I said we're just going to go back in person, and I still have those that still could and want to log into that experience that are beyond, our community here. So I'm still trying to work out what that hybrid might look like.
mm,
Uh,
mhm, mhm.
so, but the tools, just like going and drumming in person, help give me the tools to do the things I do today. It's, through that ongoing virtual drum circle has helped me develop more virtual programs and getting more comfortable. So it doesn't take so much energy now when I jump on as it did before. So, yeah.
Right. Oh, that's amazing. Let's talk about rhythmic innovation. So, I can probably guess your mission and vision, and I probably know it because of who you are and how you are, and just even what we talked about today. But if you want to go ahead and state that, and then also talk about like making that transition into rhythmic innovation, just from a community drum circles standpoint, that's where you came from, right? Um, when did you decide to become organized and become an organization and kind of just make it, I don't want to use the word legit, but legit, I guess, because it doesn't validate you, you're already valid, but when did you want to make that switch?
Well, our mission is very simple. It's, exploring the possibilities of music to advance education and wellness and community. Is the basically the idea behind, innovating how, once we connect, to our past, the rhythm of the past, it helps us connect to the present, and then it helps us also align with how to connect in the future, the rhythm that's coming next. And very simply, I think it started with, Jenny and I, when we met at school at the drum circle at Berkeley and going through our internships in California here, and realizing that we did internships, we did contract work with other music therapists, and we realized, hey, we have all the tools here that we can start our own company right here in Livermore. And we don't have to drive all over the place, and we can meet more people, we can have a bigger impact, we can improve our quality of service. And so Rhythmic Innovation is this umbrella, basic an LLC that we've started to, well, protect ourselves so that we can continue doing what we do, because we do now go into hospitals, into schools, and, I say I've been bit and sticks thrown at, and so there's this legitimacy that, you want to, that comes with that. There's a legitimacy that comes with board certified music therapist that we uphold. And so, that Rhythmic Innovation has been the umbrella to allow Jenny to work. Now we're doing all Zoom, but hopefully opening our doors here in the home, bringing over 30, sometimes 40 students and clients into the home to teach them music. And it's allowing me to drive my trailer out and go to communities in need, and of all different, all different places. So The Livermore Drum Circle is so funny because when we first started our website, people were so confused. We're new, we didn't understand our brand. And so you go to Rhythmic Innovation and there was like our drum circle, there was music therapy, and people were like, calling us up. So how do we get free drum circles going? And what is it, what does it have to do with music therapy? So to kind of help define, and then I go downtown Livermore and everybody goes, hey, it's Phil, the Livermore drum circle guy. And I realized there's something about this Livermore drum circle. And I said, you know what, I'm going to lean back into this idea of the Livermore drum circle. And so now it's it's under the umbrella of Rhythmic Innovation. So we have music therapy, very focused. We have the Livermore drum circle, which is basically community focused. And then I have drum innovation, where that's more where I drive to locations, to provide these types of services to larger groups and communities, corporate teams, or senior homes or schools. So,
Dude, I've been blessed to be part of all of that, actually. Like, so it's awesome. Okay, so some business questions, just as an entrepreneur, right? And really, it's like this blend of community person and entrepreneurship, which is really, really cool to see, right? Because you're still sticking to your roots, but really doing it up and still being like legit, right? Is what is the term, I guess, that I'm using. But how do you continue to stay in your passion and joy with what you're doing now?
yeah. So I think is just, really reevaluating, it's when something's put in front of me to really, innovation is something that, I can find a way. There's always a way, even if we're in a pandemic. I remember, I said, oh, the biggest challenge was like, oh, well, how do we all drum if we don't have drums in the home? And so, I kind of came up with this concept of going on this rhythm quest to make an instrument in your own home, to really, it's kind of weaving, your craft or your your gift, and to kind of reevaluate, where you're at, to see if you can work around some of these obstacles. And I you're talking about an entrepreneurship. I'm happy to say that the Livermore Drum Circle is the first community drum circle that's using Patreon as this platform. If you're familiar, it's since we're meeting virtually, how we used to bring a bucket and pass it around, people would donate. So now we're, looking, and there's so many clicks to try to, all the virtual buckets, with PayPal and Venmo, but Patreon was this wonderful platform we stumbled across, that again, it was, a new way that people can subscribe and to pay forward. So these have been some of the, just kind of the exciting kind of ventures that came out of necessity out of this last year.
Thank you. So what is it like building a team?
Now it's remote work is here to stay. I have a team I have an in-person team, our drum circle, those that come, being able to teach and empower through leadership. Now I have a remote team as well, where, I have a web developer in one part of the country, a designer in another part of the country. And I've been collaborating with my cousin on the East Coast, building music, so, and then, and then I'm into learning how to, bring teams together. So I'm also, working on that as well. So, yeah.
Good. What are 3 important things for teams to know? I got the tough ones tonight.
Yeah, it's the things for teams, well, it really, the first thing that comes to my mind is the size and what's the intention. Smaller teams might be a little bit more easier to work with than larger teams. But if you work with larger teams, you get more diverse, in your in objectives. And I would just again say, I don't know if so I think size and intention, and then also understanding the resonant frequency, the resonance of your group,
Mm,
and to
mm,
understand a little bit, where, what is your volume, and is it overbearing, and how can we maybe listen a little bit more,
mm,
and to kind of be more aware of our energy and how it's being reciprocated. And that's where I think music is one of the earliest forms of team building there really was,
mm, mhm.
so
Yeah, your answers are so different, right, than what most people would say in terms of team building, right? Like, oh, communication and all of these things, but you're really talking about like frequency and energy and all of these other states of being and even intention, like bringing that into like the business world or whatever people deem, because it's a new world, we're just creating it now, but to bring intention into that is very, 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 very powerful. Man, I'm so glad that you said that, and I'm so glad that you're talking about frequency and energy and really always being aware of where you're at and what you're doing, right? Like, how loud are you being? And we're not just talking about us talking or like even vocally, but like in terms of volume, like what is your volume, right? It's almost esoteric to talk about, right? Like, what is the volume of our work, right? And is it too much? Is it too loud even, right? If we go pre-pandemic 2019, for example, June of 2019, I, as an event manager, had an event every 2.5 days for that month. And I was running, like literally I couldn't catch up to myself even. um, but I did it, right? And what kind of volume is that? Like, is that too loud, or am I like, how does that translate, right? um that's really those words, man. We gotta, luckily this is on YouTube, because then we can just like revisit this, and then
yeah
you can really like hash that out, like, yo, what is the volume of your company? What is the intention of your team? What is the frequency? That's
yeah
I'm glad I asked that question. I'm glad for your answers, man, because those are some answers that, will stand the test of time. Like, come back to this and really like think about those things. That's great. Um, do you have any other important things for an organization, for building an organization? A tip or trick?
hmm. I think it's mostly is like the heart. There's, you know, and they call it sometimes your green motive. It's, I'm always, I have this big dream of like, how can I work with teams and organizations that have the equity, so that can we help balance out a little bit, so that, we can reach out to those that are underserved, because we
Mhm,
see this, imbalance right in front of us. We don't have to drive very far to see it.
mhm,
And so, I think that really, I I was at first, the more I get into business, some people are kind of turned off by it, but I'm always looking for the heart in it, and it is there. There is heart in the business, and to hope to encourage, it's always we're always up against time, and so we don't want to get too heartfelt when there's business to do, but for us to really make a point to continue to communicate, what is the heart, what are we doing beyond this work, or what is the reason, that has brought us all here, or the mission, right? And to include some type of way to help balance or to give back, I think is really important for every kind of organization. So
mhm.
yeah.
Awesome, awesome. And now we're going to talk about the future.
Yeah.
What does the future look like, smell like, sound like feel to you?
Well, yeah, in Livermore here, that sounds like drums and smells like, the grapevines. It's
Hey, we have open space out here still. I
we
mean,
do. It
as
is,
much
and
as we're building downtown in Livermore, and as much as the Bay Area is growing with urban sprawl, um, we still have open space. And so you say that, and I joke about it with you right now as well, but it's a blessing to have, that smell, because not everybody gets that. You know,
yeah,
it's amazing.
yes, and yeah, and then I guess we're talking about the future. There's a lot of talk about these, the Roaring Twenties, right, coming back. That
Mhm.
we have this open space, and we're a little, there's still a lot of hesitancy. We're trying to figure out what this new normal is going to be. But I do see this open space, the music and the arts thriving. It's the
Mm.
conduit. There's a saying I love. It's, we get sick alone, but we get well together.
Mm.
And music and art is one of those that we is a very powerful force, that does exactly that. I mean, think about Livermore. We were trying to figure out how to make Livermore like Pleasanton and, Bankhead. Boom, all of the surrounding businesses benefit from that.
Yeah.
And so I see this, the future is that, Livermore creates these music community events where everyone knows that on a certain day there's the open mic, or there's the drum circle, or,
Mm.
the paint gallery that's, that's outside. There's so, the and for me too, the future, is to correctly help and compensate and move forward the arts, to help support the arts and the music, to understand its value. There's, I believe that musicians need that correct compensation, and I think businesses see that now more than ever, that when there's live music, whew,
Oh man.
that's something that we've got to invest in.
Yeah.
We all can invest a little bit more
Yeah,
into.
definitely.
So yeah,
Yeah, I've seen that, and talking pre-pandemic, even, man, your downtown Livermore sauced is hopping, man. You know,
yes,
um, once there's music there, it's game over. Music and trivia night, right?
yeah,
Um, and then even more recently, with like even Rebel Kitchen, right? They have live DJs out there, and actually some of the DJs on Twitch have been
yes,
rocking it out there. Shout out to the DJs on Twitch, because man, they be coming out to Livermore, and we got legends coming to Livermore now, which is amazing in terms of DJing. So I think that businesses see the value of that art form, right? Just because it does bring people together. Music brings people together, man, and it's not just, it can be a background thing, but really it just is an accent. It is the accent. It is the spice, that really makes the night alive. Even, um, what are some dreams you'd love to reach?
is well, in the first video we watched, that the Livermore Drum Circle becomes a tradition, a staple here. That it's not, necessarily Phil's drum circle, but it's our drum circle, and that there's enough people that will come and support that it'll continue. That I can stay here and continue to give back is a is and as a dream of mine, and to continue playing gigs on the weekends, to continue the work that we're doing, and to help create a future for all the students and those that we work with, to also be able to thrive in a community that lifts them up in their art. So
I just
yeah,
had an idea, and I know I keep alluding to this new job I have, man. But
yeah. And you can't say it yet.
I
Is
can't
it?
speak on things yet,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, I can't speak on things. There's no
Sure,
dry
no
ink
worries.
around right now. Everything. I don't even have a
Yep,
pen yet.
I get it.
But I would love to see, with the Bankhead Theater, we've had these art in the schools programs happening for so long already. I was part of the implementation of it back in 2012. And it's finally ramped up to where we can get multiple organizations going within the year. And I have these dreams myself of, having resident companies teach these programs throughout the school year, and also having cultural programming happen throughout the school year, having a calendar of events throughout the school system, through all the schools. Would love to see Rhythmic Innovation be part of that as well, so at least now it's on YouTube and we can always reference it. But I think it would be a great fit for the education manager to push forward. And if you know of anybody that wants to be an education manager, send them my way.
Sure.
Yeah, and I'll leave that at that. But in any
Sure.
case, where will you be in 5 years, and where will Rhythmic Innovation be in 5 years?
Hopefully I will be right here. And making an impact locally, but then also connecting globally and continuing to connect globally to continue to not only serve the clients that we're working with, but also help train and empower those that are also interested in this work. There is so much work, and there's enough to go around. There's not enough. There's more of a need, and so we're hoping that in the future we'll be able to create that space to empower others. That I will continue to be driving this orange trailer around, delivering smiles through the drum, and to be able to connect with teams and organizations to remind people that they are able to. There was a gentleman who came to one of my drum circle, and after he asked if he could bring a guitar, and I said sure. If you play it like a drum, and I told him some things that he could do. And after the drum circle, he was amazing. He came up and said, I got so focused on raising my kids, I left music, and you helped me reconnect. And he just went on, and he was in every shop in Livermore, touring around playing. It only takes one time to reconnect. And I think that, I think that I just hope to continue to be a springboard.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna end with this. People come to you for healing, man. Flat out. I don't know if you know that, but you play your drum, it's the pulse, and people are gravitated towards it. I had the question earlier, like, why are people gravitated towards the drums? It's healing, man, and you are the healer in that sense, and also it's interesting that you mentioned that story at the end, because that's similar to your story in the beginning, when you were saying, yo, I just left the church group and was like, I'm gonna go play these drums, right? Dude went and played the guitar and connected still to drums, and reconnected himself to himself, and that's the healing that we're talking about. It's amazing. Yeah. I just want to thank you for everything you do and have done. Man, all the courage that you've had in your life, being the rebel that you are, and being the healer that you are, and giving and being of service, man. Like, I don't know if people got that from this interview, but I recognize it, and I know that there couldn't be anybody better in the place that you're at. Like, you are the one, and it's such an honor to know you, dude. Every time, you're my brother, man.
Feel the same about you, Arthur. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, no doubt. And I was going to do a lightning round of questions, but I feel like probably what's best is to just play us out. Can you play us out for a minute or two?
Definitely. Is it would it be okay if I grab my handpan?
Yeah, just do what you do.
Yeah, let's
set up. Meanwhile, I'll talk about some of the future things that are happening. I know that I mentioned I have a new job coming up, and I do. I want to thank everybody actually first that's on Twitch right now. Thank you guys so much for hanging out for close to 2 hours, man. And just listening and experiencing Phil's journey. Dude, it's so inspirational. And oh, I got redeemed for fruit. I don't have fruit around me though, bro. Anyway, maybe I'll find something in a second. I'll eat it after Phil plays. But also, thank you for hanging out, and thank you for being here. I hope you were inspired by some of the things you heard. It's such an inspiring story and such an amazing story. And I'm so glad to have connected deeper to Phil and just gotten to know more about him. Some of the future things that are happening, nothing. I don't know. I'm just taking it day by day because I'm literally like just focused on right now, right? But I will be back on Twitch DJing here pretty soon. I'm getting a new laptop finally. And I think that's all I'll talk about now. Anyway, Phil's ready, so.
Well, I was going to mention, if you're not doing anything tomorrow, we
Oh, yeah.
are, for the first time, we're going to be going back to the original location, the first video, in front of the bankhead on the first Thursday. So we'll be there tomorrow from 6 to 7:30. And yeah, and we'll be there throughout the summer. So first Thursday of each month from 6 to 7:30. And thank you so much, Arthur. I really
Yeah.
feel, that that the those that have empowered me, the teachers that I've had, really has allowed me to be here today. And I really feel like the music is what is the real medicine. And I'm so honored to be that facilitator. So wherever you're at, thank you so much for sticking around and watching, listening to my story. I'd love to hear from you if you have any other questions. But right now, just connect to this place. I know that when we're on the screen, it's very visual. So if you're comfortable, just to ground in. And I have this beautiful instrument called the hand pan, and the original builder built it. It's based around the steel drum, but he wanted to make it a little bit more of an instrument, for really a grassroots instrument that brought healing and brings people on that journey. It puts me on that journey when I play, as it's so fun to play. But I just invite you to, wherever you're at, if you feel comfortable, to just close your eyes and to really listen deeply. See if you can listen through this microphone, through all of this techno universe, wherever you are, and see where the music takes you today.
bro. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Arthur.
So they said that they redeemed my fruit redemption, so I got to eat a fruit. I'm not sure if, and then they said lime for some reason.
Yep.
What? So I'm gonna eat this lime. Man, thank you for that song, because yeah, that was really definitely grounding and really for me, brought me home. You know, that instrument, man, it's crazy.
Yes.
Do you have
Yeah.
any shout outs or anything?
I've got a biggest shout out to my fiance and beloved Jenny Madrigal. And I mentioned her before as she's, man, such a powerhouse in making this possible. I'm laughing at you eating that lime. And again, to Ron Scudder for believing in me. Uh, just every step of the way, and to my parents, um, and to to all the communities, particularly the senior homes and some of those that I'm not able to reach at the moment. My heart goes out to them, that I'm able to reconnect with those communities soon. So yeah, and thank you, Arthur. And I just am so I'm so glad that you've been a conduit, and yeah, and for LV Pack for helping support us in so many different ways, and so many other names I could go off on. So
Keep going. I'm just eating this lime, bro. Sorry for this face, but it
no
just
worries.
a face of a lime eater.
Is this
Um,
is it traditional that you eat during your show?
no, these guys. It's traditional. Yeah, actually, it's a tradition now. Every time that it's just Vernon is on my stream, he redeems me for eating fruit and
Nice.
other things, and so it's just eating a lime. Yeah. Um, with LV Pack, are you a resident company kind of per se? Or how is that working? I guess this is like, I don't know, this is off script. We don't have to talk
Oh,
about, the contract, but
it's all good. I don't. Yeah, I just know that they've been so supportive into allowing us to use their,
Mhm.
rent their facilities and be on their space, and really help bring down costs, so that makes it possible for us to, we were out in this beautiful courtyard outside. It was the first time we drummed. The last few months we were there. The acoustics there are incredible, by the way.
Mhm.
And I'm hoping possibly we might figure out a residency. This is another future, is that if we can get our drum circle community to a point, where we draw enough people, I'd love to connect with some of the drum facilitators across the globe that I'm connected to, such as like
Mhm.
Arthur Hole or Christine Stevens, to come out and to kind of show, another level of what's possible through drum circle facilitation.
Mm.
So we're still working on that, and they've just been really just supportive. I'm
Well,
grateful to have
so
them.
here's another thing to add to that, because this whole time I was thinking, because now we're in brainstorm mode, right? See, this is also something that happens when I connect with you, is
Yeah.
that it would be nice to have a drum festival. And in
Yeah.
fact, that would be one of the main things, like, during that festival, is to have these speakers come out, or these teachers come out in that kind of way. That'd be so dope, dude. And I think it's possible, is the other thing I'm
Totally
getting at.
possible.
Yeah, especially with the bankhead.
Yeah, and I'll shout out to Catherine with Taste of Africa and the Chesnami Foundation. They've also been hugely influential in
Mhm.
partnering and helping and bringing out some, like Ibu, and we have some of the best West African djembe masters that come through.
Mhm.
And so to I'd love to do some type of drum festival, bringing in, the Chesnami Foundation. There's so many, from Brazilian to Haitian drumming. It's all here, to gamelan drumming, and to be able to, a community that is comfortable bringing out their drums. It will, this is a key, a door, a key that will unlock, a door and an opportunity. And so if, the community comes out with their drum, it's the door that might open up a whole cultural perspective. It's a passport that helps, take us to all of these different countries right here in Livermore, and help appreciate and learn through that. So, it would be, I'd love to be able to create maybe a weekly event and then have different facilitators, different cultural, and cultural and drum masters that could come and help teach and elevate, really uplift the drumming community here. So that's another dream. Speaking of which, yeah, definitely another event is the Taste of Africa. I believe it's in October, but there's going to be some wonderful drumming happening there, and we'll be there as well. So yeah, cool.
Yeah, and that's actually part of a weekend of culture. So Barrio Fiesta is the next day after that. I agree with you in terms of that. And that one of my dreams is to have just a multicultural festival in general. And speaking of the future again, I'll be shifting, let's just say that. And so I think there'll be more energy put towards that, or at least that's one of my goals. And I think we can make that happen. And I think that one of the connecting things is I know that the connecting thing is the drum, right? So let's I guess collaborate more on that.
Yes. And any of those that are listening out there that have those ideas, and if that resonates,
yeah, definitely. Right.
Yeah.
Man, thank you so much. I finished the lime. It was sour. It was cleansing, I guess. I probably have a piece on my upper lip or something, but or dry skin. But anyway, thank you, man. I love you, bro.
Yeah,
I
love you
love
too,
you.
Arthur.
I'm gonna raid into who's up right now. I'm gonna raid into Raid Among Friends. It's pretty much a DJ raid train that happens every Wednesday, and I think it's PB DJ Darren. So I'm going to raid now, and then we're out. All right.
Sweet.
Thank you again, dude. Phil. Let's see. Let's do. I think it's / right? It's been so
I've
long.
been doing these virtual high fives. We're gonna high five
Oh
everybody
yeah.
on the way out.
Oh, yeah. For real. Let's see. Raid at PBDJ Darren. Sounds good. All right, brother. We can do it.
Boom. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. It's still gonna give me a thing. Let's see if I can do it here. It's probably easier to do it. Oh no, it's rating. It's weird because on StreamYard it says there's an error, but when you're on this, there you go. When you're on the, oh whoa, it's crazy over here.
Wow.
When you're on the app or whatever, then it's it goes by pretty.
I see it just transferred
easily.
over.
Yeah. So there's that, and then music. Great. I'm going to end the broadcast.